Remember when you didn't need an app to survive the day? You just needed a screwdriver, a steady hand, and a little grit. From fixing what broke to feeding a family on scratch recipes, these weren't just life skills. They were proof you could stand on your own 2 feet. Let's look back at what the world calls useless now. Number 1. Fixing things before throwing them out. A broken toaster didn't mean a trip to the store. It meant you grabbed a screwdriver and figured it out. Boomers grew up with the mindset, don't toss it, fix it. Radios, clocks, even the lawnmower got a second life in your hands. You learned by watching your father, or just trial and error. It wasn't always pretty, but it worked. Today, everything's disposable, cheap to buy, easier to replace. But back then, fixing something wasn't just practical. It meant you cared about value, about effort, about doing things the right way. Number 2, remembering phone numbers meant you were reliable. Before speed dial or contact lists, we carried numbers in our heads: home, work, grandma's house. If you were stranded at a payphone, it was your memory that saved you. I still remember my childhood best friend's number, and I haven't dialed it in 40 years. Back then, being the one who knew the number meant people could count on you. It showed responsibility and trust. Today, most can't recall their spouse's number without checking a screen, but once, knowing a phone number wasn't just useful. It was a badge of dependability. Number 3, driving stick when you really drove the car. There was a rhythm to it: clutch, shift, throttle. It wasn't just about getting from A to B, it was about feeling the machine. Learning to drive stick meant stalling in the driveway, grinding gears, and finally getting it right. It taught patience, timing, and pride. For many of us, it was a father-son rite of passage. Today, most cars don't even offer manual. But if you could drive stick, you weren't just a driver, you were part of the car. And there's something about that bond that no push-button ignition can replace. Number 4, balancing a checkbook, the original financial literacy. You sat down with your ledger, a pen, and maybe a calculator if you were lucky. Every deposit and withdrawal written by hand. It wasn't glamorous, but it was grounding. You knew how much you had and where it went. No overdrafts, no guesswork. It taught responsibility in a way credit cards never could. Parents used to teach their kids how to balance a checkbook as part of growing up. Today, most young folks can't even read a bank statement. But once, this simple act was the foundation of being financially trustworthy. Number 5, using the yellow pages. Before Google, there was grit. If you needed a roofer or a pizza place, you reached for the yellow pages. That thick book lived by the phone, worn and dog-eared. You flipped, scanned, and made your choice. No reviews, no star ratings, just instinct and maybe a good name like AAA Plumbing. It wasn't high-tech, but it worked. You learned to navigate alphabetically and trust your gut. Today, a bad Wi-Fi signal feels like the end of the world. But back then, the yellow pages were the original search engine, and you didn't need a charger to use them. Number 6, changing your own oil. Pride under the hood. There was a time when every young man knew how to do it. Jack up the car, slide under, drain it clean, and refill with care. Changing your own oil wasn't just about saving money, it was a ritual. You learned from Dad or figured it out with a Chilton manual and a bloody knuckle or two. It taught independence and respect for the machine that got you to work every day. Now, cars beep when they're due, and you hand over the keys at Jiffy Lube. But we remember when getting dirty meant you knew what you were doing. Number 7, writing in cursive, more than just fancy loops. There was something dignified about it. Your signature wasn't just scribble, it was identity. You wrote letters, thank you notes, even classroom essays in cursive. And it wasn't just about penmanship. It trained your hands, your brain, your focus. Teachers corrected your loops, your slant, your spacing. You improved by doing again and again. Today, schools barely teach it. But cursive taught us more than how to write pretty. It taught us that how you present yourself, even on paper, matters, and that something made by hand could be beautiful and lasting. Number 8. Typing on a typewriter. Mistakes were earned. Long before spell check and autocorrect, you had to mean every keystroke. The typewriter didn't forgive sloppiness. One typo and you started again, or reached for the whiteout. You learned to plan your thoughts before putting fingers to keys. And the sound, the steady rhythm of letters punching ink to paper, meant work was getting done. It was noisy, messy, and mechanical. But that made it real. Whether it was a college paper or your first resume, typing on a typewriter made you care more, not less, about what you said and how you said it. Number 9. Sending a letter. Slow, but worth every second. Back then, when you had something important to say, you wrote it down, on paper, with your own hand. Mailing a letter meant choosing the right words, folding it with care, sealing the envelope, and walking it to the box. And then, waiting. Days, sometimes weeks, for it to arrive. But the wait made it meaningful. Letters were saved, reread, tucked in drawers or wallets. They were proof you cared enough to take the time. Today's instant messages disappear in seconds. But a handwritten letter? That stays with you, sometimes for a lifetime. Number 10. Dating face-to-face. When character mattered most. You didn't swipe right, you showed up. Maybe you called her house phone and had to speak to her father first. Maybe you picked her up in a car you fixed yourself. Dates were about conversation, courtesy, and real presence. You looked each other in the eye. You learned how to listen. And you knew what mattered wasn't a filtered photo, but how someone treated the waitress, or how they laughed. Today we scroll through profiles. Back then, you met someone, slowly got to know them, and if you were lucky, you built something that lasted. Number 11. Cooking from scratch. Love was measured in ladles. Before microwaves and meal kits, dinner started with a cutting board and a cast iron skillet. Recipes were handwritten, passed down, stained with grease and memory. You didn't need 5-star ingredients, just onions, flour, a little know-how, and a lot of heart. You tasted as you cooked, you adjusted, and you fed people you loved. Meals weren't just food, they were traditions. Sunday roasts, birthday cakes, that one casserole everyone fought over. Cooking from scratch took time, but it gave back something deeper: pride, care, and connection. Number 12. Hanging laundry on the line. Sunshine was the secret ingredient. You'd carry the basket out, clip by clip, sheet by sheet. The backyard smelled like soap and summer. You learned to read the weather, chase the sun, race the rain clouds. And when the wind picked up, you ran outside to save the clothes. Hanging laundry wasn't just a chore, it was a rhythm, a quiet act of care. Clothes dried stiff but fresh, kissed by breeze and light. Today we push a button and walk away. But some of us still remember the sound of a wooden clothespin snapping shut and the scent of clean, sun-warmed cotton. Number 13. Navigating with paper maps, getting lost was half the fun. You didn't rely on a glowing arrow or a voice from your dashboard. You opened a paper map, big as the dashboard itself, and figured it out. You planned the route, read the legend, and made notes. And when a detour came up, you didn't panic. You adapted. Road trips weren't just about arriving. They were about discovering. Getting lost meant meeting someone at a gas station who gave you better directions than any app could. Maps didn't update themselves, but they taught you how to think ahead and how to ask for help. Number 14. Using a slide rule when math was muscle. Before calculators were in every pocket, you had to learn the logic behind the numbers. Engineers, students, and sharp-minded teens carried slide rules, sleek mechanical tools for real math. You didn't just plug in a number and hope. You understood why the answer made sense. It was tactile, it was mental, and it was honest. Slide rules weren't fast or flashy, But neither were the bridges, buildings, and moon missions they helped calculate. Today we tap and swipe. Back then, you earned every decimal. Number 15, being patient because life didn't rush you. You waited for the mailman, for bread to rise, for your turn on the party line. Life moved slower, and so did we. That wasn't a burden, it was a gift. Patience taught us to savor moments, to appreciate effort, to understand that not everything had to be instant. You didn't expect answers in seconds. You waited, you hoped. And when things finally arrived, a letter, a visitor, a birthday call, they meant more. Today, we live on fast forward, but maybe what we need most now is to remember how to wait. They say these skills don't matter anymore, but we know better. They shaped how we lived, how we loved, and how we raised the next generation. If you still remember any of these, you're not outdated, you're experienced. Which one stuck with you the most? Share it in the comments. We're listening.